Okay, good morning. It's just 8:02 on the 28th of May, and I'll call the SELCO Commission meeting to order. Welcome. And first thing we've got today is the review and consider approval of the April 2024 bill schedules and warrants. Do we have any comments or questions on the bill schedules and warrants as presented?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So we've been giving a lot of assistance to customers, and there's like different amounts, like 1,000, like 800. What are those? Are those just like grants for specific things, or because I know there was like the $10,000 loan, but that's not.
The loans are separate.
Yeah.
Any question? Jim?
So I'm not 100% sure what the criteria levels are, but there are different levels that people can meet for different items.
Okay.
But I'd have to defer to like a Becca or Patrick to speak more on what the qualifications are, what the different items
Okay, so
are.
there's different amounts that you're
Different amounts for
qualified
rebates.
for rebate,
Yeah,
but they're rebates.
it's certain ones,
Okay.
yeah. Most of those that I saw looked like they were rebates, and depending upon whether it's a lawnmower or whatever, there's
Yep.
certain
Yes.
values
Yep.
to each of those. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the April 24 bill schedules and warrants?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is approving the meeting minutes of, first off, we'll take the meeting minutes of March 26th, 2024. Any comments or corrections to the minutes of the March 26th? Okay, hearing none. Motion to accept the minutes of March 26th.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then moving on to the next set of minutes is the last month's, the April 30th of 2024 minutes. Any comments or questions on those?
Is there a reason why they're mock draft?
Yeah, I just forgot to remove the wall.
Okay.
Good catch. With the exception of removing draft, do we have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved. So moved.
Okay,
Second.
second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Could,
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a question.
Yes,
after.
sir.
Who, I was unable to attend because I was traveling, but I was just curious. Who,
Yeah, you wouldn't vote for that.
Yeah. Well,
No,
I put in my suggestions, but I was just curious who ended up.
Did you read the minutes?
It
Yeah,
didn't have the names.
minutes
in
had the
minutes.
three names.
The three names that
Yeah.
Megan
It
Dowd.
did have the names?
Yeah, in the second
Are
paragraph.
you announcing that yet, or formally? I don't know.
We,
Oh, you did.
we
Yeah.
announced them at the
Yeah,
meeting.
you want to go ahead and read them again?
Megan Dowd, Nicole Ipaguira Bringus, and Vera Riabova.
Okay.
Oh,
all
in the
three-
last line.
Yeah, and all three of those were $1,000 scholarships presented by SELCO and Nesson? Okay, so.
Really great
There you go.
package. Great.
Great packages. We had 53, I think, submittals. I mean, every one of them was unique in their own right, and the three, it was a hard choice, but we got three at the end, which
Yeah.
was all the money we had. Great.
Is 53, is that like normal?
That's good. I mean, based on
Seemed
that's
like a
actually, we're
lot.
on a rise. I
Was a
mean,
lot.
it used to be.
It took me hours to get
It
through.
used to be we'd only get like
No, it's a
20,
lot.
because for some reasons, nobody really knew about SELCO scholarships, but that number's come up, and as an example, on the town side, we're up, 60, 70 applicants now.
Wow.
Where it used to be, again, 20 to 30. So they're well publicized. The kids are proactive on what's going on. And interestingly enough, not to diverge, but of the 53 that were from that applied for SELCO, only half of them applied for the town scholarship. So it's kind of a different mix of people who actually apply for the scholarships. Kind of interesting. Anyways, with that said, which is not on the agenda, we'll go to the next item, which is the 2024-2025 master calendar. Everybody had a chance to at least take a look at it, and I know it's all written in warm jello for the coming year, especially the last 3 to 4 months. But it looked like school vacations were taken care of. We're always at the end of the month rather than during the middle of a school vacation in February or April. Any other comments or questions on that calendar?
I just see that we have review scholarship applications and select the recipients in March again.
Yes.
We had to delay it to April, and I know April's going to be too late. Are we going to change the deadline? I mean, if we're going to have, again, hours of reading Should we, either change our deadline so it's earlier, so we have more time, so we can get them ready for this?
Yeah, we can take a look at that. The only reason that the deadline is what it's at is it's actually the same, but basically the same day or same week as the town ones were, and they can certainly be moved back a week.
Yeah,
or so.
but we can't move it back to the April one, because April 29th.
No, 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 I'm
is
saying
it April
her-
29th, is that gonna be too late to submit them to the high school?
No, they, like this year, they did their award ceremony May 14th.
Okay,
Yeah, the big question is whether, I think,
so,
yeah, I
I
think we
mean,
should
if,
try to shoot for March, but if we have to defer to April, I think we can. The reason we really make sure we're done in April is because, one, the town for the kids at the high school, they put a program together for that, and this year the awards was a little bit later, the 14th. It used to be the first week in May. But additionally, if we have somebody that's not a Shrewsbury High School grad, some of the private schools graduate earlier and so to let them know so they can put it in their program. But I don't see a problem with this really if we have to delay till April. Because it's,
well, I mean, if we're keeping the deadlines the same for them to submit,
Yeah.
then how much time do we want more time, and do we want to postpone it to April off the bat, instead of us scrambling to try to get them done for March, and then saying, oh, we don't have enough time, and, again, I'm just putting that out there, because we weren't ready
Okay.
for March, and,
I'd support moving the date to have the scholarships done the end of April, and if we can do them in March, that's fine, we can move it up. But for actual planning purposes, I know it's tax season, in March and early April, which is just another added burden for some people. And if you want to go, we can shift we'll do that, review the applications to April. And what do we have also in April? We had presentation of annual audit. Well, okay, that's right.
yeah, but we're not doing that till now anyway, so.
Well, we're doing it now, but next year they're going to be way ahead and going to be right on top of this.
Yeah, because they want to be running in here 2 weeks after tax
taxes,
season ends,
too.
yeah.
Okay, so bottom line is, with the comment of changing the approval for the scholarships from March to April, can we have a motion to accept the meeting schedule for 2024, 2025?
So move.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
just
sir.
One other last comment. I'm unfortunately traveling again on June 25th.
Okay, we'll make note, that's for this coming,
Yeah, the next one.
Okay.
Apologies.
we've got it. Anybody else going to be, right now, know that they're going to be missing? No? Okay, great. I just know it's my mother's 93rd birthday, so I know I will be here. Or not, yeah. Independently of motherly love. Anyways, with that said, next is what we've all been waiting for, is the presentation of the 2023 audited financial statements.
We have?
Mr. Zocco? Mr. Zocco, would you introduce your
Thank
guest?
Only a joke.
Yes, I'm Jim Zacco, the Director of Finance, and with us today are two of our auditors from GSA. I'll let them introduce themselves as I bring this up.
Good morning, Jim Goulet, Managing Partner of Goulet Salvador Associates.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Adam Schremser,
Yeah.
with Goulet Somebody Else.
Welcome back as well.
Thank you.
Not as many years, but
I have too many. I think you have the reports.
yes.
I'm very happy to report we had both cable and electric, all completed, ready to go. With that, that's of course a lot of information, so, stop me if I'm going too quickly or, not hitting the details, let me know, but I'm just going to give you an overview of what we see this year. I'm going to start with the electric division. The financial statements, in both cases, we have unqualified opinions, which is, of course, what you want. We unfortunately can't say that with all light departments these days because of sometimes the retirement system information is not up to date. So in your case, you have your own retirement system, everything's perfect in that respect. So the audit opinions, first section, that is it goes on for 3 pages, basically saying it's an unqualified opinion. The next section, beginning on page 4 of the electric division, is your management discussion analysis. And that's in management's terms, how things went last year. I always say this is, if your constituents want to say, what's going on with the light department, this is you refer them to this report. This is in layman's language, very good encapsulated history of what happened last year. But our audit really begins on page 9, the statement of net position. So you're in very good net position. Your current assets are up from 16.4 million to 21.2 million. Cash is very healthy, good balance there. Receivables have been steady, pretty steady there. I think the reserve for uncollected accounts was increased slightly as a sign of the times. Your purchase power working capital is, again, a major number on the current net position of current assets. That's money held with MWIC primarily, your primary agent for when you pay your light bills. So when they get your bills, they pay them, and they invoice you, and you reimburse them for those bills. On the non-current assets, again, current being used within 12 months, and non-current being after 12 months. Depreciation fund held steady at 7.3 million. And remember, you're always buying, you're always taking some depreciation, reducing that account, and also using some of that money to buy a new plant every year. Construction fund is a component. Depreciation is really just money that's been set aside for capital improvements that haven't been done yet. The power cost adjustment reserve fund, 1.5 million, is just an amount that's set aside for potential spikes in your rates because of an outage, or it could be any number of things that may cause your rates, your bills to spike. And rather than try to accomplish recovering that spike from your customers, we have set aside money. You have set aside money to cover that emergency. The pooled finance reserve relates to your debt. So on some of your debt, you're actually required to put money up front to hold some money, which will come back at the end of the note payment. So that's the 804 number. Rate stabilization fund. Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this has 3.7 million, but there's an appropriation of additional 4 million that will be in that's been transferred after the end of the fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
So you see under the cash flow, there's use of the money of 4 million from transferred from operations, but it physically hasn't been transferred to the account. Okay. Preliminary survey relates to new projects that are coming down the road. Plant assets net 38 million. We'll see a schedule that kind of lays out better your plant, which is really the major asset of the department. Deferred outflows of OPEB and pensions down below, you'll notice those are really just timing differences from how the pension gets funded, how the pension earns money or loses money, and all that stuff. So those are just timing differences that take 5 years to straighten themselves out. But it's a rolling calculation, and there's more detail in the back. So total assets and deferred outflows 80 million, down from 83 million last year. On liability side of things, not much there, fortunately. Your normal accounts payable, which is generally that's your December power bills, they get reimbursed in January. Accrued expenses, things like vacation, payroll. The bond payable is the current portion, so current, again, being the principal due in the next 12 months. So that's the part of your bonds that are due within the next 12 months, $300,000. And the pooled financing loan is similar. That's other debt that you have. That's the amount due in the first 6 months, first 12 months of the new year. The amount due after that is in the next section, non-current, the $3 million bond payable. So again, the total liability will be $3.3 million, $300,000 due now, and $3 million due after 12 months. And the same with the pooled financing loan, $4.6 million. There are deferred inflows, similar to the deferred outflows in the other report. The only difference here is we do add there the contribution aid of construction. So as you know, when a developer or a builder or someone comes into town and buys or has us put new plant in service, that money comes in, we get reimbursed from that, and that gets amortized over the life of the asset. Rate stabilization reserve, $8.2 million. That reflects the additional $4 million that was appropriated, but it didn't just hit the cash. And again, that's the rainy day fund. The deferred inflows for OPEB and pension, again, they're pretty small. I'd asked a question of Adam the other day, and I don't remember what the answer was, so I'm going to ask him now. The deferred inflow went from 9.4 million to 3 million. Is that just actuarial changes in the plan?
Yeah, so actually in the actuarial study for pension is based on December of '22, and if you remember, the assets in the stock market was not very good at the end of 2022. So if you go back to page 9, there's a net pension asset. It went from 8.7 asset down to a $488,000 asset as of '23. That is a big chunk, is that loss of investment earnings. So it didn't, the whole system didn't hit what it was targeted to hit. So the whole system actually went from an asset to a liability. So the light department's doing still very well, as the whole system has a liability, where electric has an asset still, a net pension asset.
So Adam, this would not affect our net income, right? Because the change in that, the calculations, that gets deferred over the next 5 years. Is that correct?
It does for the first year of that amortization does get amortized into the
Into the current
pension
year?
expense
Okay.
for this year. But it's netted against all the good years as well, so it kind of almost nets itself out for that amortization part.
Okay, all right. So the net position, which is really our equity, our assets minus liabilities, the old balance sheet activity, our net investment capital assets, that's our plant, is 30 million. It went up slightly from last year. Net position for depreciation stayed the same, 7.3 million. But our unrestricted net position, again, stayed very consistent. So that's what I was thinking. This change in the pension plan really didn't affect our equity. So it's a thing that this year, if the market did very, very well, which it has so far, it's going to recover that loss. Okay, any questions so far on the statement of net position? Okay. Next report is our statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in that position, our income statement, if you will. Sale of electricity went from 34 million to 43 million, pretty healthy increase there. So I'm going to expect that our cost for operations also increases quite a bit, which would be our power costs. And again, this is a summary sheet. There's more in detail in the back of the breaking these down, but operations expense went from 28.9 to 36 million. Maintenance went up slightly from 1.9 to 2.1, and depreciation is pretty consistent, and I believe we're taking 3% the statutory amount that we're allowed by for depreciation expense. So our operating income went up slightly, up actually pretty good, from 1.2 million to 2.8 million. And then you have non-operating activities, some interest expense, interest or investment income, there's some small grants and amortization of the premium on the debt. Brings down the profit from 908 to 2.7 million. So good, healthy year. And remember that you also appropriated 4 million for the rate stabilization fund. That would have, if it had not done that, that would have shown us profit. Okay, transfers out. Looks like the town got a better piece of the action. Not sure if that's based on your profit or the calculation was 284 to 869 was the amount that was transferred to the pilot this year. Okay. The statement of cash flows, I generally don't spend much time on that. I think it shows it in the first section. The net cash from operating activities this year showed a healthy source of cash for operating your department. 8.4 million came in from operations. 4.3 went out from additions to plant primarily and paying the debt on the plant. And then, so the overall net cash increased by 3.9 million. When you begin with 9.5 million, so now you're at 13.4 million of cash, operating cash. The accounts that make that up are on the bottom of the next page. Your operating fund, construction fund, and the power cost adjustment fund. So those are really unrestricted cash accounts that you can do to pay your bills. Okay. Page 14 is your OPEB. It's sort of a standalone financial statement of the OPEB trust fund. There are $2.5 million invested at the town level through the investments that they have. There were contributions of $113,600 made, same as the previous year. And the net investment income swung from a terrible loss last year of $387,000 we recovered, that and then some this year, so you're 314 and add to the positive. So that's the result of the investment income increase, the net equity, the position of that from $2,099,000 to $2.5 million. So the market can be friendly sometimes, or unfriendly, as in the year before. The next section of the financials are the accounting policies. I'm happy to report there were no new pronouncements that were incorporated into the footnotes this year. So note 1 goes on pretty much forever explaining the various accounts and what they mean, the accounting policies. Note 2 talks about depreciation fund. Again, you can read these at your leisure. Any questions, we can certainly come back or answer any questions, but they're pretty much similar to what you've been reading year after year. Just with updating for the numbers, like funds held in MREC Note 3, we mentioned the amount of UF funds that held in a combined consolidated fund for your working capital, for the passive fund, and also your rate stabilization fund. You'll see several times in the footnotes level 1, 2, and 3. That's measuring the risk of being able to identify the value of your investments. Generally, for the most part, you're all in level 1 or level 2. So that's good news. There's nothing being held out in any risk investments. You're also you're governed by mass laws that require what you can invest in. Even when it comes to stocks, there's a list of assets you can invest in. Concentration credit risk, that's not important. Receivable, there's that allowance I mentioned. It went from 250 to 300. That's on note 5. Just a sign of the times. I think there's sometimes more difficulty collecting from our customers, and you don't want to shut them off, and there might be medical issues and all that. So the reserve was we generally look at historic write-offs, which you've had in the past, and try to keep that number in line. Let's see, energy conservation loans. I think you were talking about that a little bit earlier. Investment associated companies, nothing significant there. The note 9 is I mentioned the $30 million net asset for your capital. So it's really a gross amount of almost $90,000 of cost of the equipment that you have in service, plant. So it's a significant increase. That's been depreciated down by $50,000, and then there debt and premiums related to the purchase and finance of the capital assets, $8.9 million, and then the pool reserve fund, which is again restricted for that. And then down below you get all the various the plant assets make that production, transmission, distribution, and general plant, and the ins and outs of all those accounts. Construction process is really an important account. I like to look at that. But so it began with 759,038. So that indicates there's some activity going on in town. Some new assets being developed. 2.4 million increase in 2.7 million relief, which means they're placed into service down below in the other accounts. Let's see, moving right along. The pooled financing loans. So this schedule reports the amount we borrowed, when it's due, in the years over. There's a five-year increments, and everything over 5 years gets pulled into the bucket of 29 to 31, right in the bottom of the page there. So that's your debt on the pooled financing loan. Note 12 is the long-term debt on the general obligation bonds of the town. Pension plan, because it's so complex, it goes on forever with all these disclosures that we must put in there. The deferred inflows and outflows, again, which are just timing differences between various items that change within the actuarial studies. I'm on page 28. Again, it goes on to explain who's eligible. Page 29 talks about the investments that are in there that have to be disclosed, the allocation, the discount rate. I think it's interesting on the bottom of page 29. So the current discount rate, based on our share of the asset, is 488. So if you go up or down 1%, that shows how much damage would be down or how much relief if the discount rate went up or down. 1% almost wipes out the whole 488. Related party transactions talks about your interaction with the town. We pay them money, they pay us money, all those are disclosed, including the payment of lieu of tax, note 15. Then we come to note 16, the OPEB, very similar to the pension. footnote. It has all the disclosures, the level 1, level 2, where the investments are, mutual funds, money market, all level 1 in the case of the OPEB fund. The OPEB liability on page 33 is almost fully funded. So your liability is 2.5 million, you've got 2.4 million set aside, and as we noted back in that position, separate position, so you're pretty much all paid up there, 95.3%. Page 34, we again show that 1% increase or decrease, and there's two components in this. Is the discount rate is one that could affect the results. The other one is healthcare costs, if they go up or down 1%. Okay, but again, since you're so almost fully funded, these numbers are almost immaterial. And it goes on, a lot of details, a lot of differences between expected and results. Skipping over page 36, the risk management, self-insurance trust. That's a great stopgap coverage for anything that might go wrong in the department. You participate in that trust. Commitments and contingencies. I don't really, other than power costs related, that's really your only commitment, which is not only, that's certainly a lot of obligations to meet your obligations, pay your bills. The bottom page 37 lists the projects you're involved in through the MWIC project. Other supply, it's 3.8 million. That's for other supply, other than MWIC, I'm thinking. Service agreement. Oh, that's a service agreement for them. Okay. Berkshire Wind, separate project you're involved in. Bottom page 39 gives you the financial numbers, your obligations under that contract. Page 40, in the landscape pages following that, this has to come out to a report. It's ultimately going to be a 10-year history. I think if I use the long paper, and fold it in down the road if you're not looking at it electronically. So this goes all the way from the initial pronouncement for this requirement in 2015 to 23. So one more year to add. But this again is just a recap of your pension, and is also a recap of your OPEB. Okay. Again, a lot of that's the same information. It was embedded in those other footnotes that go on forever. Supplemental information, we have to disclose in the pension fund. The cost of living adjustments changed from 3% the first $12,000 of pensions to 5% on $14,000. So it's just a change of the terms of the report. So the next page is page 44 is a breakdown of your revenue. And again, in the statement net position we looked at before, it was really just total revenue, total sales. This breaks it down by the component, residential, commercial, industrial. Okay. Not a lot of huge differences here. Everybody's up a little bit, except for Lake Plant, the town. Municipal buildings went down slightly. Kilowatt of sold, again, very interesting information. Kilowatt of sold was the most of it down slightly. And then the operations and maintenance expenses, again, are broken down sort of by the FERC accounts, the DPU accounts for fuel, generation, maintenance, and all the breakdown of those. These total numbers all flow through into the consolidated statement of net income. Goes on for 2 pages. I know I was just highlighting things, but anything I missed, any questions, any thoughts so far?
I think the variance in the payment in lieu of taxes, because it's like 600,000, it's just because of the difference of the way that we're calculating it this year?
Correct. It was, we were trying to split between electric and cable, a little more of an accurate reflection of those industries in what is fair, for each, based on analysis we did the last couple of years.
Okay. And this includes like amounts that we don't get paid for, right?
Yes, correct.
That we provide, services that we
Yes.
provide to the town that we don't get paid for.
Non-cash, yep, Correct.
Hey, Jim, are you aware of any, on the electric side, what efforts, to note that the unaccounted for kilowatt hours went down, both in percentage and in total hours unaccounted for? Are we actively looking at sources of loss, or is that just data?
I think that's more data, but I couldn't actively speak to that. We are in the process of implementing new tools for those groups. One of them that will help us analyze the whole grid, what's coming through it when. That's probably more 2025, but I think that's just right now data, unless they're doing something that they haven't
Okay.
let me on that.
Just a follow-up on that, one number that jumped out at me, it was interesting to see a 3 million kilowatt hour decrease on the government side. That was curiosity as to why that dropped so much. I
We
don't
could
know.
look into that.
Yeah.
Is it affected by EV or solar?
So the EVs, it should not be, because those are a separate item that we pay for differently. So like the end users, whenever there's an EV, charging station, they would be using that. From a town perspective, if they've bought more EVs, that I'm not sure of if they started using more. But basically, we charge all the EV, revenue to the customer directly. So that's not bypassing, or shouldn't be bypassing, the town.
I'm trying to think, you went from the old police station to the new one. Just looking where other energy changes, well, we'll take a look at it. Okay.
I had a question on the, the unaccounted for kilowatt hours. I was going to direct to Adam. So that's reflected also in the DP report. There's a page that just calculates that. So I'm thinking that number is actually a very fairly low number, would you say, in relation to other
Compared to
departments?
other, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is, but the bottom line is we can still get lower.
Yeah, that's
And,
right,
and
yeah.
what are we doing proactively rather than just letting data show, so that we're aggressively pursuing
Yep.
who's taking power from around the meter?
I could
Yeah.
just add a few clarifying things. We do have an active 4 kV to 13.8 kV conversion project going on, which means we resize the transformers accordingly. So having transformers that are more appropriately sized for the load.
Less line loss.
We get less line loss, less transformer losses. We have that going for us. We have the AMI project going on, so we're literally touching every meter. That's another data point to look at. Citing that specifically to these numbers, we haven't done that analysis, but certainly it's inherent in our day-to-day activities that can result in more accurate metering.
Okay, thanks. I think we're done with that. We can
Okay.
move on to your,
Move on to cable.
sure.
All right, here we go. Again, unqualified opinion. No issues with that. Management discussion analysis, again, good information, some nice pie charts in there. So our statements begin on page 7. Current assets, almost identical to last year. Cash is about the same. And our receivables, everything is kind of bizarre that it's so close to last year. Preliminary surveys, 14,500 under non-current. And then there's your cable, your planned assets net, 26.6 million, up from 23.3 million. So there's activity going on in your building, your plant. Total assets 75.8, now 77.8. Deferred outflows for pensions and OPEB, 2.2, up from 900,000. So total assets and deferred outflows 80 million. On the liability side, your normal accounts payable, 1.7 million, down from 2.5 for the month of December, paid in January. Current portion of your bond, 660. Long-term portion of your bond, 11,170,000. And unamortized bond premium, 1.6 million. Your net pension liability is only $832,000. And the OPEB liability, $14,000. So you're pretty much there with that. Deferred outflows, again, we have a contribution of construction, a small amount, 112 on the liability side. Deferred inflows for pension and OPEB. And so you're in that position, and I must point out that in many, sometimes smaller departments, when they had to bring on the entire pension liability several years ago, that threw them in a negative, unrestricted in their position, and some are still there. You just haven't been able to recoup that money, and again, if they're in the retirement system, not fully funded like Worcester Retirement System, that liability is going to keep showing up on their balance sheet. So fortunately, you have a positive net position in both the capital side, 15.6 million, and the unrestricted, 46.8 million. So I guess that's saying you're in good shape, for the shape you're in. On the statement of income and expenses, the revenue was 22 million, just down slightly from 22,443,000 last year. Operations, maintenance, and expenses of running the department, 16.6 million, down from 17.3. So your operating income, pretty consistent, 5.3 million versus 5,019,000 the previous year. Interest expense on the bonds takes a little bit of that away, so your net income 5,065,000 for the year. Net position beginning at 57 million, and then again, I think transfer the payment in lieu of taxes for the cable share is 268,375. Okay, cash flows again showing good numbers. Your cash provided operating 6.6 million, similar to the year before. I'm looking for the additional plant. There it is down in the lower section there, the $5.2 million. We saw the plant went up in value, so you invested $5.2 million in new plant, and you paid off some debt for the existing bonds. So net increase in cash was pretty insignificant, almost stayed the same. Okay. And again, for purposes of cash flow, the cash accounts we're using are just the operation account. One account that represents your operating cash. The OPEB trust fund, your funds on deposit with the town of 1.4 million. The minor contribution is 12,127, and then the investment income again went from a negative 234 to a positive 180, which made the OPEB trust fund pretty whole. Footnotes. Note 1, no changes. Let's see, accounts receivable, note 3 breaks down advertising revenues, town receivables, and other receivables. Franchise agreement, that's with the town, I believe. Yep. Related party transactions is with the cable in the town, paying their bills. Risk management, the self-insurance trust comes up again. And there's the recap of the net investment capital assets. Gross cost of plant, 53 million. Depreciation, 26 million. Take away the debt we still owe on all that plant, 13.4 million. And then there is a restricted bond cash account that is restricted for plant. So it brings a total of 15.6 million. Looks like a lot more going on in the construction in progress account down below there. Begins with 2.4 million, increased 5.6, relieved 6.3 million of plant that was reallocated back down into the various plant accounts. Okay. OPEB, note number 9, again, very similar to the electric side, where we talk about the level of investments, level 1, primarily on the OPEB. Net OPEB liability, middle of page 21, note 9, a whopping 14,809 is your unfunded liability. And when you on page 22, when you look at the 1% increase decrease, this number's so small it doesn't really it doesn't do too much damage. Talk about the inflows and outflows and the amortization of those over the next 5 years. And 11 begins the pension plan, very similar information, just the cable side's share of that. Investments, discount rate, 7.5% we're at. So that's, again, 1% could make a pretty big difference in that. Could double it. Commitments and contingencies, cable contracts, obviously the most significant liability we have. We're not in business. The bond, our share is 13 million of that. 11 million, that was the original bond, outstanding now 11,830,000. And there's the breakdown on page 29, the breakdown of the principal and interest payments for the life of the bond. And payment to lieu of taxes of 268 we just saw. Again, the landscape pages relate to the pension and the OPEB, the historical financial condition of those funds. Note 33, supplementary information, we again have the adjustment for 3% going to 5% on the pension side. Then the breakdown of the expenses by department, by major category, head end, signal, transmitting, etc. These are a summary of the numbers that all fall into the consolidated statement of income and expenses.
Okay. Any questions on anybody on cable? Okay.
I do have one other report, naturally, two other reports.
Yep.
One is the Statement of Internal Controls. I can just take a moment to look at that. Only take a moment because there's not a lot there. Every department has a drafting of financial statements. It's a perceived weakness. I don't agree with it. I've said that many times. But it is what it is. It won't go away. A new significant policy in this one, and this is on the electric side, where the materials and supplies, and again, I think this is a symptom of the changeover to the new system. And this, if not next year, within a very, relative short period of time, will be resolved because the inventory is in transition. It's going to work great when, as we were discussing earlier on, it's going to work very good when it's in the position.
Yeah, this is one of the items that we talked about last year. We knew it was going to be on this year. We're actively looking into it. It may still be on next year, depending on where we are. There's just multiple issues that we're confronting from an inventory standpoint, and things like, space, switching our systems, and now we're increasing the amount of items that are inventory. We're currently restructuring our inventory department. So the current person in charge of inventory, they just applied for a new position that opened up that'll manage. And then as we have a new position coming in, that person will structure the shift at the same time for those two, and we'll have a helper. And the idea is, because we have kind of a distributed inventory, some of our cable is off in a warehouse. We just added another warehouse to be able to support more cable needs. But with two people, we'll be able to do cycle counts throughout the year and other things. With that, now I believe we have our electric inventory where we want it, from like what items we want to be included in that inventory. That's where, when I mentioned this still may be a work in progress as we go, we just increase the amount of items that are the potential to count. And the big thing that we're working toward is a more defined, definitive, this is inventory, here is the process that goes along with inventory. But we'll be working that out and through that over the next couple of years. There's just all other issues with it too, of making sure we have the proper inventory and forecasting and logistics planning that all works in, but that stuff doesn't hit the audit.
Well, we've talked about this for several years, and that at one time we had almost no accountability. It was kind of grab can off the shelf and whatnot. Then we brought somebody in to actually start getting it, refining it, and as we put the 100 megawatt light bulb focus on this thing, we're refining it. So I see that as a plus. Now, on this talks specifically about electric. Now, how about the cable side?
We did better the cable this year than we did the electric, which was kind of vice versa from last year. We put a lot of emphasis trying to make sure we could get those numbers a little bit closer for cable. It may swing a little bit in the next year as we go through some stuff, but the one thing that, just to let everybody out there know, all of our inventory is in, secure areas that is, if someone was to have to steal it or do something, it would be noticeable at that point. So it's not like we just have huge copper reels out there and someone could grab one and walk off with it, anything like that. So there, I don't want people to worry about stuff like that out there.
Now, is it the same people, the same two people that you have that's doing electric does cable?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions from anybody on this report? If not,
The good news is that the issues from last year were resolved, the utility plant, and again, that was a symptom of moving over to a new platform, and that's in pretty good shape. And then the bond cash, there was some miscommunication or just not some tracking with that, and that's been resolved.
Yes.
So that's good news, we need to take things off.
We have more stuff in the system now. We're able to not have two different systems, which makes it a lot harder to keep track of everything.
okay. And then you have the final report, which is the DPU report, which we have to sign, so we should really pay attention to it, what you're gonna say.
Yeah. All I'm gonna say is the same numbers are on the finish
Yep.
statements as the ones in here. Again, we assist in preparing that. A lot of that stuff is more detailed that your office provides, but
Yep.
but that's the same. At
So
least
it's
the
all been
numbers
merged and we're in good shape.
balance about this report.
Do we sign that electronically now, or how's
They-
that being
they
made
have that.
available
They
for
should.
signature?
I sent it.
Okay.
We
There
can
should be
send
one
that.
more report that you have the communications with governance report. It's not actually labeled. It's just, it's a memo or a letter to the SELCO Board of Commissioners dated May 14th.
Do we have that?
I don't see it in the folder.
Yeah, I don't see it.
It's
Later.
fairly new.
Okay,
We'll make sure you get that. It's kind of an overview of the audit and things like that.
Is that some
That-
regulatory obligation to report direct to the selectmen?
Yeah.
that's Mike's usual area of expertise to make sure that the Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted. No,
So if
Okay.
you didn't get that, we'll make sure.
Yep.
Do you have
I do have it,
You have
yes.
it, okay.
Okay.
All right, great.
Awesome.
nothing adverse?
Anything adverse, Adam?
No.
It's just
Basically-
minus, yeah.
Yeah, it just talks about what significant estimates there are, which is depreciation, allowance for doubtful accounts, the net pension liability or asset in electric case, or the net OPEB liability. And then the rest is basically just telling us what we've already shared with you, we've
Yep.
gone over, any issues we've talked about with you, all of that stuff.
Okay.
You
Is
received
this-
management
is this
rep
all-
letters?
Yes.
And was there anything unusual or atypical in your management rep letters?
Nothing unusual.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. So getting back to our DPU report, do we need to sign that electronically, Val, or do we have a copy of the signature sheet that we can sign off?
I don't know, did you like to sign electronically or?
So we went back and forth with this. We didn't know if you'd want it electronically or if you'd want it printed. So I believe we can get you the printed copy, but if you prefer electronic, we can
How do you submit it?
Let's go for it.
Yeah, well, yeah,
DocuSign.
we're kind of analog people in a digital world. So if-
Yeah.
How
no.
do, but do you mail it in or do you submit it
Oh,
electronically?
both. We have to do both.
You have to do both?
Yes.
Okay.
At least
so-
that's what they told me last year.
I feel like we did electronically last year, but traditionally we've always signed it. If it's right there, man, and we're
Yeah.
all here, man,
Yeah.
so sign it.
Yeah.
If you have the signature sheet, we'll pass that around. Okay.
I don't know if we have the,
Do we have the,
yeah, we'll get you the signature sheet. We can have it signed,
Okay,
and then we'll pass that.
okay.
do we have the, bills to sign off on? The bills?
The warrants
Folder items.
Make sure you get the right names.
and also the,
Yeah, we need to have the warrants as well, for the signature, so if we put it all together.
I have them right here.
Yep, I'm sure you're all over that. Okay, any other questions for this fine young gentleman here as far as the annual visit?
appreciate all your efforts, thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. That's smoother this year, thank goodness.
I think we're coming a long way, at least Jim seems to, I ask him every month whether we have money or not, and you guys have shown that we do, so that's good. But also, just the overall accountability of what's going on, I think the refinement has been improving year to year. And
Yeah, it's a noticeable difference, Jim. Excellent work, really. And, I expect the internal controls to say something about inventory, but it was a big problem a while ago. And
Yeah.
I know you're totally on top of it, and that's an issue, so that's so encouraging. Just all around, I just know we're in better shape than we were.
No, I and my team appreciate that. Definitely, we're building up all of our internal controls and processes, and even at the end of this year, which when I say end of this year, it'll be like 3 months, we're going to bring in the software company that we switched to, and they're going to do a best practice, review of how we're using the financial side of the system, and then we're doing that in the spring for how to do it for the service side, and we're going to keep those going every few years just to kind of, make sure we're in line with not only industry standards, but how our system works and utilizing all those features and help make sure we're doing everything correctly.
Is there any kind of report? So what's that report called? Is that called the internal controls report? Is there any summary of what our internal controls are? Like not a report, I guess, but more like a summary of what internal controls we implement? For instance, two-signature requirement or something like that? Is there some kind of documentation?
Yeah, it's kind of what we do. We write narratives for everything for our audit that kind of explains our processes.
Okay.
And that's where the auditors will go through, they'll
They work
read those
through it.
narratives, and then they'll go, okay, based on this, you might have some exposure here, and that might be where they do some initial testing
Okay.
or things of that nature.
Okay.
But I don't think there's a per se document that says this.
Right.
We do have, every invoice goes through our approval process flow within the system now. So managers not only see, the invoice itself, but where it's being coded, where it's being budgeted. And as we build out the budgeting process, they'll be able to double check and say, hey, that's where I budgeted, here's where it went, I like it, we're happy. And then on our side, we'll also start putting in additional processes to review certain accounts and be like, what's in this account? Do we like it? How's all that type of stuff? But it's like every month, I will say, we get so much further into everything because you get more understanding from all the end users. Plus, on top of it, we get to build certain processes and beef them up, and all of a sudden it's in place. And, I was closing out our work orders last week, and all of a sudden there's all this information on them, where a year ago it was missing a bunch of information.
Right.
So as we go, that's where we start learning stuff. We go, okay, let's put another internal control to make sure this information works this way.
Right.
So even for work orders, to make sure stuff's going in the appropriate buckets, we now have ways to limit what GL account can be used with a work order. Because we noticed a couple of times people were picking just the wrong category for their labor. Because now we have the ops folks also entering their own time, and we have a good process to make sure it's going on the right work order. We then still review it and make sure we like what the information is before it goes in. Then we review it even after the information's in before we capitalize it. So we do have a lot of those steps. It's just more verbally narrated.
In SEC world, companies are required to say that their internal controls, they deem them to be adequate based on the size and whatever of the company. Is there a similar representation that you guys receive on, I know it's subjective, on adequacy, or is that something you see the internal controls and you are doing an internal controls report, and then are you required to say you deem them to be adequate other than what you're, setting forth? What's the accounting standard?
I think internal controls are part of the audit report I mentioned in there, that we have reviewed the internal controls, tested them.
You deem them to be
It's
adequate?
just part of the process. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
It's majority of what they do in the audit. They just
Yeah.
kind of test stuff, and they ask me nonstop, why is this, that, and
Yeah.
and we prove what it is.
Well, I sensed, years back we were a one-man show, and who knows how things went. It was in good faith and honest, I believe that, but it was a one-man show, and I think you've really done what the organization requires, given its size. And I think sometimes an organization just grows in a way that you almost have to catch up with how to then do the accounting for it, or whatever, bookkeeping or whatever else.
Exactly. Those are the growing pains with inventory, where sometimes people don't realize it too. It's like it's darkest before the dawn. Like sometimes stuff will get better, then it'll take a step backwards, then it'll get better again. It's just getting that process until where you get everything in place and you have all the controls that you need to make sure everything's flowing
Right.
appropriately.
Well, I mean, stay on that, because that's the key, I think, and watch the growth, so but great job.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for our auditors? If not, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
very
See you next year. Okay. The Next item we have is the general manager's comments. And highlights, I should say. Okay,
Thank you.
floor is yours, sir.
All right, just a few of the usual monthly updates that grab my attention and I think set the stage for our current operating environment. Not to go through each one as sometimes I actually end up doing anyway. So natural gas prices are far above the U.S. average in Massachusetts. I thought that's noteworthy, just as for a variety of reasons to highlight why I thought this was, noteworthy is the, strategic electrification efforts, natural gas affecting our power supply, all of those things. So while it might not have a direct impact, as a natural gas utility per se, it does impact everything we do. In addition, it also shows the electricity follows suit in the same article. So everything's kind of tied together. So I thought this was just an interesting update on where we stand with respect to the rest of the country. And I do think that sets the stage for some of the activities and legislative policies that should come in the future.
Curious, I was trying to look it up, but curious what the wholesale market average price was within that 29.7 cents.
Great question. I would want to get you an accurate answer on that rather than ballpark it.
Because it's just, as time goes on, I don't know, I'm trying to find it. But,
Yeah.
it's just interesting to see how much of that is affected by the actual cost of the natural gas or
Exactly.
the other fuel sources producing our electricity versus all the other layers on the utility bill that reach the customer.
Especially on the natural gas bill, only maybe a quarter of the actual bill is based on the actual cost of natural gas. The rest of it's transmission.
Mm-hmm.
And
Transmission capacity market costs are now going through the roof. All of these other ancillary markets
Yes.
driving the cost up. What's the average residential kilowatt hour cost in SELCO territory?
Oh, it's SELCO?
Yeah.
What we're at currently, I believe, we have 13 cents versus
29.7.
29. Exactly.
Yeah.
And with respect to that, if I may add a quick opinion piece is, if you I could send this to you, but if you look at Franklin Roosevelt's speech from 1935 in Oregon, it's a fascinating look at, this is kind of, the era of public power blossoming and the role that it plays. And it refers to public power as the yardstick for utilities, largely the private sector. And so one of the things, to your point, is you look at, there's 41 examples in Massachusetts of the yardstick of how costs should be incurred for these services. And that's that very, so when you're looking at, to the next bullet point, the DPU approves utility deals and LNG, but when the DPU is looking at this, they have 41 data points to say, well, why do the big players need to implement another rate increase? You have 41 examples of costs that are significantly lower. So I think that's how this all ties together, and eventually someone's going to take a look at this. So sorry not to move on to the next bullet point, but related to that, and it was a nice transition I was trying to seize there. DPU approves the utility deals with the Everett LNG to this exact same theme. These are significant multi-million-dollar agreements that impact all utilities in Massachusetts. We've seen significant increases already to our rates. That's been included in our previous rate stabilization activity and our GTA adjustments. So this is just the article that kind of sets the stage forward-looking that these costs are going to be here to stay. So just to add that, we have the pending in the next couple of months, the cost of service study that we're currently performing with Baker Tilly. So the idea is to incorporate some of these forward-looking numbers to see where rates have to go. And then less rate specific, but just more with our other programs and demand side management. I try and keep an eye on the tariff world, EVs and just batteries in general. So I threw in a couple of articles related to that. Same with, the preparedness for electrification. Again, we highlighted some of our own local endeavors there. We're doing the 4 kV conversion. AMI will help, all of these things. So we're doing our part. Our viewpoint is we need to be ready for what the consumers demand. So if people want EVs, if people are buying heat pumps, we need to make sure our grid is ready to accept whatever people purchase. Interesting note too with respect to heat pumps and similar technologies. This one happens to be heat pumps. As I believe we've talked about before, it's showing that it is a good job creator. So you can see up in Maine, our neighbors to the north, 15,000 jobs at the end of 2022, just related to this initiative. So it's just an interesting data point to keep in mind with how all these things link together. I do this in chronological order. So this is back to the rates. So you can just see by comparison, we keep an eye on the big private utilities in the state. So National Grid and Eversource are looking for rate increases. This one I found particularly noteworthy. This one happens to be in Connecticut. But in this particular case, this caught a lot of media attention here, where I must summarize it, is basically the Connecticut version of the DPU did not approve Eversource's rates. So basically they said, well, if you don't do what we're asking you to do, we're not going to invest $500 million in the grid, which fortunately, as far as I've now read, was not met with great enthusiasm. So I think the appropriate response is underway there. But just as a, you can't make this stuff up. So it's in there for your reading pleasure. And then shifting gears, human resources. So this is more of the fun stuff. We had Brian Keeley announced his retirement after 24 years. So we always want to give a shout out to him. He had another wealth of knowledge, great career here. So congratulations to Brian. And 33 and a half years. So that's a great run.
Yeah, what else did he do in the town? He worked for us.
Public buildings.
Okay.
And then he made the swap as a
Yeah.
meter reader, to my understanding. So congrats to him. And then we hired our, she's here, Olivia as our communication specialist. So we'll be speaking about her 33 and a half years later.
I won't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm lucky if I'm alive.
yeah. I fogged a mirror this morning. I felt successful.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
welcome aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, so
we'll-
you grew up here, Olivia. You grew up, and then you went off to school, or you moved to, Michigan?
Yes.
And then you came back here for school, and you decided to put a taproot down and stay around and join us here. So great, and welcome aboard.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited.
And then the other information here, I think you're largely aware of. Arbor Day was great. Actually, I'll just speak to Ray Gooley. He's been around a very long time, and so he does across a lot of the MLPs. He does a lot of the educational content with the schools. So he's here with us, and he does that. He does that well. The rest, we have our integrated resources. EV charging stations are at Parker Road. Those are operational. And so feel free to use those if you're in the area. We're applying for some grants. I'm happy to answer any questions on those, and just a more detailed report of our electric engineering and operations activity. Our fiber project, I'll speak to Stream first since it's first here. Stream, we're really hitting that at full effort. Again, the August deadline seems to be approaching faster and faster. So we have a number of installers. Everyone's working really hard on that, and we actually have a really, really good pace going. 125 installations per week, 500 per month. It's quite a bit of work, and so far feedback has been positive. I'm very pleased. The installers are really great to work with. We're entering people's homes, and at this pace, the more homes you enter, the more opportunities you have to have a good experience or otherwise. And so I'm pleased to report that we're on the good side of customer experience.
People
Sorry, go ahead, Tony.
People are understanding how to operate it now.
Yes, I mean, we have, as expected, an uptick in help desk calls and everything, but again, it just speaks to the quality of our team. They spend as much time as it takes.
I was going to say one thing to add to our help desk, our customer service, and our techs have been doing a great job at handling the increased stress trying to get all this transitioned in this short period of time. They've been doing a really good job at it.
There you go.
Yeah, every time I come up here, I notice that there's more and more couples that are of my ilk, generation, or beyond, that are in actually getting hands-on training from the folks right here at up at the town hall on the machines that we have, so that they can actually become familiar with it. Because even a one-time visit is to install, I'm sure there's still confusion, but they seem to be able to come up here and get a little bit more, as I referred to in the Navy School of the Boat. They learn how to use it with hands-on, so that's a great opportunity for people that want to get refreshed on it. And I will also put a vote in for I call it the box, but what do we call when you actually go to stream, instead of just using a Roku, an Android stick or whatever, you've actually got the box that goes on, and that's what we're referring to as the
Evo
Evo
Pro?
Yeah, okay, Evo Pro, and I would highly recommend that. Was it $5 to get that box? To have that where with the small controller, which we are trying to work on, obviously, to make it larger for those folks to make it easier. But by pressing my TV, I think it is, white button on there, with that, when you have that box, it immediately brings you up to the SELCO stream, and you're off and running. So for what it's worth, that's what I've learned in my experience of having tried the various sticks and now going with the Evo Pro box. Highly recommend that for people that are to train. And then the numbers we have, about 2,000 people have converted over. We still got about 3,000 that we got to get done. Is that the number? So we're not over the
Just under 3,000 as of.
Okay. So, okay.
Are we still having issues with TVs that won't bring the app up on their screen? Like, I know, like Sam's, it was like when we had our
Yeah, so
demonstration.
right now. I'm loud.
I know,
Yeah.
I hear you back there.
So.
Who are you?
Hi, I'm Aaron LaCour. I'm the Broadband Technologies Network and System Operations Manager. That's a mouthful. Right now, LG and Samsung are still incompatible. However, LG, we are like in the home stretch of applying that update so that it can be used on LG TVs. Samsung, that's a Samsung thing. They have their own branded app store and everything, so that's a ways away. But LG and like being able to use it on a website are very close. So we hope to have that by like Q3 for sure. So
Before I go and replace all my TVs, on my Samsung TVs.
yeah, sorry.
Like,
so like
well,
Evo Pro though is great. So you can get the Evo Pro.
Yeah, but you have to change it to, you can't use it on Samsung.
Yeah, you can.
You-
well,
oh, you-
you can't use the native Samsung Smart TV app because it's
Okay.
not there. It's not available. But you can use an Evo Pro box on any brand TV.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So-
It just connects via HDMI cable.
So this is a first world problem, not a third world problem.
Yeah, exactly. You're
She doesn't
good.
have to upgrade to a new TV portion. She just needs to get the Evo box.
Right.
Get the box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or a stick.
So what's your
Thank you for
excuse
that.
now?
What's
No,
my
it's-
excuse? Oh, because I have
You're all set. You're
mul-
ready.
multiple. I have lots of issues now.
Well, just as we're on that subject, though, I was confused because I know somebody that has several TVs, and they come to get the box, and I'm going, geez, that's going to cost a lot when you get, the price for all those TVs. But I think there's an actual quantity or expense of numbers, it's cheaper by the numbers? Is that the truth as far as?
No, well, I'll talk to this because I think you're asking about the old DTAs. So the DTAs were $1 a piece, and these are $5 a piece. So it's a little bit more money on DTAs, but it's actually cheaper if you had TiVo boxes or HD boxes or DVR boxes. It's cheaper because those were $10.95, $18.95 a box, and now it's $5.
Okay, and then in per TV, what's the one where if you can stream it, you can get up to 3 TVs for the price? Or-
Yeah, so we have you have separate streams too. So your 3, 5, 7 streams that you can choose from, and that's just basically watching live TV on each individual TV. So if you have 3 streams, you can watch 3 different programs at the same time, all across
3
your
different
house.
TVs.
So, yep.
Simultaneously.
Yep. Simultaneously.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Find the person that.
You can have any number of boxes in your home. Though.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, you could have 10 boxes in your home, but you can only watch it depending on how many streams you choose. You can only watch it on 3, 5, or 7.
You could even have a main box on your main TV, and then your satellite TVs, you could use bring your own device like Roku, Amazon, or if one of those TVs' native applications works with Stream, you can do that as well. So I know, like in Connecticut, my mother just did this with, the big IOU. She transferred over. They had regular cable boxes in all the ancillary bedrooms in case the grandkids came. Now those are all just smart TVs, and they sign into the streaming of, their cable provider.
I won't tell you how many I have.
That's all right.
Have you
We
switched
have a
over?
special package for you.
Beaten special.
That's right,
Yeah.
that's right.
Jumbo package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the audit of income next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Just one note, I did have my conversion, I don't know, a couple months ago, and wildly impressed. The tech crew was great. I think I gave Joel the feedback.
Okay.
Super friendly, and we didn't, my house didn't make it easy on them, so it was great.
Okay. Not bad.
This little side thing, I had our meter upgraded, I guess.
Got the AMI.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that there was kind of like regionally or geographically no kind of warning or like, I don't know, kind of like, hey, we're gonna be in your region this month or something like that, some kind of notification. So it was just, I mean, perfectly great guy, and he gave out the sticker, looks legitimate. But I didn't, and it's all on the outside, so there's nothing to really do. But I thought maybe like it would be good to send out some kind of notice, we're gonna be in your area kind of notice, just more of a kind of a heads up notice. But it seems like you've been doing the conversions for a while, so late in the game maybe, but.
Yeah, why is
But
that
it's-
strange?
Do we know?
What's that strange you're doing at the other
Yeah,
one?
I mean, obviously he's got the uniform, he's got the car, he's got the pamphlet. It looks legitimate. But I think the notice ahead, something, there's someone in region in your area that's going to be doing, updates to your meter, just as that ahead of time thing, I think would have been helpful.
Sure.
Have we gotten any Big Brother backlash, conspiracy theory?
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Okay. Wow.
In the past,
That's amazing.
we heard that, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have the tools, should it come up. We bought a Gauss meter and everything, so we can demonstrate that it's
No, it's
I
okay.
not.
have my tinfoil.
Sending out signal.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
I have my tinfoil,
Yeah,
my cap.
fair enough.
Yeah.
So let's see. So that was I was going to transition from stream to just fiber in general. I think some of the, smaller benefits, but noteworthy. I wasn't going to mention it because I actually don't recall what RFOG stands for, but we were able to shut down our RFOG servers. And again, just the legacy video services over fiber, we no longer need that. So it's nice to have, the ability to transition from the old to the new. So those are some of the wins that you get along the way. And then concurrent with Stream, and I mean, just there's a lot going on. We have the XGS system going in, and so that basically will enable up to 10 gigabits per second symmetrical for bandwidth speeds on fiber. So again, just leaps and bounds in just a few short months, if you will, from legacy coax-based services to fiber-based services. So that's an ongoing project behind the scenes. It just leverages the fiber system, and that's a head-end adjustment that allows us to deliver the increased speeds. Noteworthy, just because it's in theme, I do think it's worth highlighting to the point of the ability for customers to come into the lobby, spend as much time as they want, test the product, pay their bills, talk about cable and electric. That's services you don't get with a big provider. Big providers don't have even brick and mortar establishments, let alone the ability to talk with customer service representatives or help desk tickets for as long as they want in person with the actual technology they would use. Same with XGS. No one, to our knowledge, is offering 10 gigabit per second service. And so it's just all these things that are noteworthy, and we're ramping up our marketing efforts to make sure it's more widely known than perhaps it is today. And then I think that's basically it, unless if you have any questions on the other tables in there, the data's there.
Well, I saw the comment about the install, about becoming even more customer friendly. We're now working after hours. We used to be after hours, but
Yes.
But you want to? I'll let you.
Oh, no, sorry, I forgot about that one. Yes, so, again, to keep pace with the transition and everything, we have, it's kind of a win-win. It helps us keep pace with the transition speeds we need, and typically folks work during the day and then have time at home, so we have these off hours availability for staff and installs and technicians to meet the customer when it's most convenient for them.
Yeah, it looks like what it says, Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, 4 to 8 p.m., which is great, and then also on the weekends from 8 till 2 on Saturdays. So we kind of getting out, trying to get it all hooked up. That's great. Yeah.
And that's for both video and fiber.
Yeah.
So all services.
Okay. Great.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or anything from anybody? Okay.
Next meeting?
Next meeting?
Was
It's in
June 28th or something like that?
25th.
25th. My mother's, how could I forget?
How could you forget
How
that?
did I forget that?
You better not forget.
Yeah.
No, but we still have it. We still, before we jump though, we have one more thing on the agenda item, which is correspondence.
All right.
And it appears that we have a letter from a Dan Hutchins, who wrote to us to thank us for, says, when the lights in the house started dimming, I thought there was a problem in the neighborhood. A short time later, extreme surges caused circuit breakers to pop and light bulbs to burn out. This is when I called to see if a problem had been reported. There had been no other reports, so the attendant took my name and address. I was not really expecting a service call. To my surprise, the SELCO trucker showed up within 10 minutes. The technician was courteous, knowledgeable, and efficient. He tested, identified, and repaired the problem in short order. And so he's fortunate, says Town of Shrewsbury is fortunate to have our municipal light department for high caliber employees to provide routine maintenance and on rare occasions handle emergency services. So he thanks us. And again, that's Mr. Don Hutchins for that. Thank you. But
Nice guy.
well done.
Yeah.
Not uncommon.
No, and this cable side, the same thing. Okay. Not that the cable's gonna pop our breakers, but there's other. But if you call the help desk, they'll solve that blue circle of death, and usually it's your router rather than anything we're doing. Anyways, good. Okay, so we've scheduled the next meeting for June 25th at 8 a.m. And then the only other thing before we adjourn is that we have to have a motion to adjourn, to close open session, to go into executive session. And so there's a couple of things we'll have to do that by, that'll have to be a roll call vote to go do that. And by the way, we will not come back to open session. So we'll go into executive session, not to return to open session. But the reasons for doing that is according to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21 Alpha 10, to discuss trade secrets or confidential, competitively sensitive, or other proprietary information provided in the course of activities conducted by a government governmental body as an energy supplier under a license granted by the Department of Public Utilities pursuant to General Law, Chapter 164, Paragraph 1 Foxtrot, Select Board Cable Franchise Agreement. And also, under the second reason we're going into executive session is Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21 Alpha 2, to conduct strategic sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, specifically the general manager. So, do I have a motion to go into, to close the open session, go into executive session, and not to return to open session?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Fall?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Bob Holland, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.